Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at a couple of new Rapid Strike, or as they say in Japan, Ichigeki Pokemon. We've got Cinderace and we've got Lycanroc. And remember how I told you a couple weeks ago that we knew what the pre-release promos were going to be from Chilling Reign, and how I told you that one of them was going to be a Cinderace, but we hadn't seen it yet, and how I was fairly sure it was going to be a single strike Pokemon, but I couldn't say for certain. Well, it turns out this is the pre-release promo Cinderace, although obviously the pre-release promo will have different artwork, and it is in fact a single strike Pokemon. And with two single strike Pokemon we need to be having a look at, it seems, well, frankly rude if we don't cover both of them in this video. For anyone that's wondering, it is the midnight form of Lycanroc. So we'll start off with that Cinderace, then translations obviously from the lovely Antoine Boulet. And what we've got here is 170 HP, which honestly for a stage 2 is kind of high. We can dig it. Retreat cost of 1 is nice and low. Shortly, at least for a little period, we'll have U-turn board pre-rotation, which is quite nice. And the weakness to water really depends on how good Inteleon ends up being, because Inteleon is having a little bit of a resurgence in the battle styles legal meta, so we'll have to wait and see if this carries on or not. Being a fire Pokemon, remember this is coming out right as Welder is rotating, and Giant Hearth is rotating, and Fire Crystal is rotating. So you're hitting a decent weakness against stuff like Zacian and also Grass Pokemon. But do please bear in mind that you are going to be losing Welder, which kind of sucks. But then again, you're a single strike Pokemon, so it's not really going to matter. Now, there is an ability here, and the ability is good. This Pokemon's attacks deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has already taken. Yeah. Basically, this adds up super quickly. By the time your opponent has taken 5 prizes, you're doing an extra 120 damage. Bearing in mind, right, we're talking about a single strike Pokemon. So you are going to have single strike energy, each one of which, when it's attached, does an extra 20 damage. And you're going to have Emboar, which lets you do an extra 30 damage, which is pretty gosh darn good. And you're going to have the new Karen card, which as I like to call it is Double Iris, which does an extra 20 damage for each prize card your opponent has already taken. So with 5 prizes taken, you're doing an extra 150 damage. I think I said 120 a second ago, it's definitely 150, 5 times 30. And that's in addition to everything else that's going on here. But what have we got in terms of an attack? 2 energy, 150 damage, and you can't attack next turn, but come on, it really doesn't matter that you can't attack next turn, because you've got a retreat cost of 1, and there's a billion Pokemon out there that have not been able to attack next turn, and that has not been any issue whatsoever. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, don't even worry your pretty little heads about it. It is going to be just a-okay. So that's quite nice. And to be honest with you, this is an attack like early game, 2 energy, 150. I mean, to be honest, right, in terms of the energy you're paying, it's not bad. 150 will be enough to get the majority of single prize Pokemon. Some of the bigger ones, especially stage 2s, will survive. But generally speaking, you'll be alright. You'll get most single prize Pokemon. But this just keeps going and going and going. By the time your opponent's taken 5 prizes, this is 2 energy, 300 damage. That's pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty good. Bearing in mind we do have Mustard, so if it's the only card in your hand, you play it, you draw 5 cards, and you can play Cinderace from your deck just flat out and then draw 5 cards. So if you don't want to play it as a stage 2, you actually don't need to play it as a stage 2. You will be fine. Please do remember though that single strike energy, I mean look, the good news is it can be accelerated with Houndoom, turning this into a single energy attack. 1 Houndoom and then a fire energy and you're off. But remember that single strike energy is fighting darkness. It will not pay fire. So you do need the fire energy or some equivalent thereof in addition to the single strike energy here. But quite frankly, 320. Now, 320 is your opponent's taken 5 prizes. You've probably recessed them to 1. Come on. And you've got 1 single strike energy on there. And if you've got 1 single strike energy on and your opponent has taken 5 prizes, you're doing 320. That is enough to KO the majority of your VMAX Pokemon. Things like Centiskorch VMAX will go down. There are a few things out there like Eternatus that will survive. But come on. There's other things we can do. And if you start combining this with Karen's belief, it gets a little bit silly. So your opponent's taken 4 prizes. Well, your ability lets you do an extra 120. Now you're up to 270. You should have at least 1 single strike energy on, so now you're up to 290. But Karen's belief comes in and goes, oh, your opponent's taken 4 prizes. Do an extra 80 damage. Well, that's 370. That's enough to get an Eternatus with a big charm. That's ridiculous. And this is kind of the gimmick of single strike Pokemon, right? This is what they're designed to do. This is kind of the whole point of them. But if you take this ability plus Karen's belief plus single strike energy plus maybe Emboar, you never know, and it gets really silly really quickly. You do need the fire energy on there, you have been warned, but you're hitting a good weakness. It only takes 2 energy. Houndoom is probably going to pay 1 of those energy. You can play Mustard if you don't want to get this out in the traditional stage 2 route. And this can get up to VMAX KOing territory realistically when your opponent's taken like 4 prizes. I mean, come on. To be honest, I mean, let's do the maths if your opponent's taken 3 prizes, right? They take 3 prizes, you're doing 150. Add 90 from the ability is 240. Add single strike energy is 260. Add Karen's belief, that's another 60, that's 320. And oh, look, that is VMAX territory. And that is a special energy, a single supporter card, and your opponent taking 3 prizes. This has legit power. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. Yes, it's awkward. Yes, the maths is going to drive you absolutely crazy on this one. But it's worth it, ladies and gentlemen. It is absolutely worth it. But there is another single strike Pokemon we need to have a little bit of a look at as well. Again, our translation comes from Antoine, and it is Lycanroc. Now here we got 120 HP, which is not ideal. There's a lot of Pokemon like Donphan that naturally do 120. You want to have 130. This is quite upsetting. You've got a retreat cost here of 2, which, I mean, it gives air balloons. It's not the end of the world. We can live with that. We have got a weakness to grass, which is honestly fine. Grass is not a powerhouse type right now, so you know what? Unless something changes, this is not a bad weakness to have. And in terms of being a fighting Pokemon, yeah, sure, you're losing Karate Belt, and you're losing Martial Arts Dojo, but you're still hitting weakness on all those different typings. Lightning Pokemon like Boltund, Darkness Pokemon like Eternatus, and you got colorless Pokemon coming in there, and it really is a good weakness to be hitting. But what are you actually doing? Well, what you're actually doing here is 2 energy, 80 damage. Well, the 2 energy isn't perfect. Oh yeah, sorry, I should mention, plus 10 more for each single strike Pokemon in your discard pile. Once again, we've got ways to essentially build up into one big hit. Well, would you look at that, ladies and gentlemen? Would you look at that? And I like this. Now, the good news is here that you are using fighting energy, so single strike energy will absolutely work. So 1 Houndoom, 1 other, you're fine. And if you're using 2 single strike energy, then it's actually 120. Plus 10 for each single strike Pokemon in your discard, and it really depends how well you're building this up. But I do believe this needs to be a deck in and of itself. It's going to be kind of like Mad Party, but it's a bit of a weird one, because Mad Party, it's 20 for each of the ones in your discard. Here, it's 10 for each in your discard, which clearly isn't ideal. But you're potentially starting with 120 rather than starting with nothing. So this can build up really quickly. Plus, as I've said, you are hitting a great weakness here. I mean, with one single strike Pokemon in the discard, or one single strike energy, you're getting a one-hit kill on a Crobat because of the weakness, which is clearly pretty gosh darned good. And I think this can build up very, very quickly. And the thing is here, you play a 4/4 Houndoom line, because it really doesn't matter, because you want to be discarding a bunch of them, so play a really aggressive, fast deck with lots of discard, and you'll probably get 2 Houndoom into play, and then the other 4 parts of 2 Houndour and 2 Houndoom will end up in the discard, meaning you do an extra 40 damage. And then you just go a little bit nuts, you play a bunch of single strike techs, because why the heck not? You might use them, you might not, who really cares? And all of those single strike Pokemon all of a sudden become a lot more fun. You play 1 or 2 copies of Emboar because maybe you play it with Mustard, but if you don't play it with Mustard, it ends up in your discard pile, so it really doesn't matter anyway. And that is what I adore about this. Maybe you play a 1/1/1 or 2/2/2 Cinderace line, because you know what? Maybe you get it into play and it's a great late game attacker, or maybe you don't. And it doesn't really matter because it ends up in the discard pile. And oh yeah, would now be a great, great time to remind you about Tower of Darkness. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, Tower of Darkness is a stadium card that lets you discard a single strike card from your hand and draw 2 cards. Well, great news, ladies and gentlemen, because here you discard a single strike Pokemon from your hand, you draw 2 cards, and you get to do an extra 10 damage because of Lycanroc's attack. And you see where we're going here? Lycanroc with Houndoom, single strike energy, and Tower of Darkness seems great. I do think it needs to be a deck in and of itself, because I think even if you're playing some kind of single strike Pokemon deck, you're generally going to be playing like, I don't know, 15, 20 Pokemon maybe, and it might not work as much as you would like. What you really want to do here is have a deck that is built around Lycanroc, with stuff like Cinderace coming in, you never know, it might be good, but really built to take advantage of this, and I absolutely adore this. I think this could be really good. I love both these single strike Pokemon. I've not been particularly in love with single strike Pokemon up to now, and I think I've been pretty clear about this. I love Cinderace and I love Lycanroc. I think Lycanroc is going to make a great rogue deck, and honestly, if you can make it fast and consistent enough, and Tower of Darkness is a great way to do so, I think we could be onto an absolute winner here. I'm giving this 4 Wassies. And I hope I'm being miserly. I hope I'm being mean. Because, I mean, Mad Party's a legit deck. Is anyone really looking at this and thinking it's worse than Mad Party? And the answer might be yes. Because you know what? Mad Party can go Bunnelby Twin Energy. Oh, look, it's a basic attacker. And it's a single energy attachment. And we can't do that here. But also, it's got 40 HP. And is super easily KO'd. Here, you should be hitting more damage, and you've got a stadium you can start using from turn 1, and you've got much more HP, and you're hitting a better weakness. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Get on the hype train with Wossie. I love this Lycanroc. I like Cinderace too, but I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.